Hello, everybody, and welcome to the afternoon tune. I'm your host, Josh, and I got two special guest co-hosts today, both from the Rated M for Immaturity. There, I both got Sage and Tim there. How's it going, guys?
Doing great, man. Happy to be here.
Brand
Um,
myself.
all right, very great to have you guys on again. There, Tim has been on plenty of times before. I think the last thing Tim was on, he helped us review there. What was it?
Lies of P?
Liza P. Was that the last thing
Think
there?
so.
Liza P there, but Tim's been on there plenty of times before. They did some anime stuff as well. Talked about that as well there. So been
Trigun
good.
was a big one for that.
Trigun was a big one, yeah. So good to have Tim on again. And Sage is usually a regular on these good old Mondays there.
I'm not
Uh,
exciting anymore.
yeah, old news there, good old Sage. But they're coming on to do some video game reviews. So it's pretty awesome there. They got Dispatch, big new game that people are talking about right now. Kind of usually you get a game every year that kind of sweeps people that people can't stop talking about, can't stop playing. Looks like that's Dispatch. Also, some more Indiana Jones, the DLC. Some more DLC came out for that. You get the Order of Giants and Ghost of Tsushima there. Doing a review for that. We're supposed to do a review for that because Ghost of Yote's out right now, so a little late doing that, but that's all right. Still do a review for this. Still a great game to talk about and discuss there. So good to compare and contrast. Even though you guys haven't played, have you? I know Sage hasn't, but Tim, have you played the Ghost of Yote there? Or
I have not.
okay. Yeah, so I haven't played that yet, but we did do a review for it. Neil came on for that. He gave his thoughts on it. And he liked it quite a bit there. I think he said he liked it even more than Ghost of Tsushima, if I remember right. So be interesting to discuss that. Then there's some trailers out right now. So discuss that. And yeah, that'll be it. And then afterwards, I'll go ahead and raid somebody. A Lucky Dog is on right now. He's playing some Fortnite as he mostly does. Let's see who else is on right now. Geek Dom. Geek Dom is on right now. He's playing Where Winds Meet. He's playing that there. And then of course, you guys streamers yourselves. You got probably people that you know that are on right now. If you do, let me know, and I'll go ahead and give them a raid. But yeah, that's the people on right now that I see on my side there. And some other people. Actually, somebody's playing Ghost of Yote right now.
There you go.
Actually, so somebody's doing that. Yeah, Sage and Tim, let people know about what you got going on, what you got coming up next, all that good stuff.
Hey, you can find us over at Rated M for Immaturity on Twitch. We are live every Tuesday, about 2 to 5:30 Central Standard Time. Been doing Metal Gear games back to back. We did the 3 remake, and then we just finished the original version of 1, and we're starting 2 tomorrow. So that's been really fun, especially with one of the guys over here. Never seen any of them before, so all the weird out of pocket stuff that happens in those, just getting his reaction has been a lot of fun. And then me and Tim, I believe we will be actually with Ulysses getting into some Warhammer here. We have done some streams for that game already, but never 3-player. So that's going to be really exciting. And they've added a bunch of stuff since the last time I checked it out. So yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. Hopefully this next Saturday, but holiday month and stuff, we'll play it by ear.
All right, this is the channel right here. You can go on, log on, and twitch.tv/rated M for Immaturity. This is the channel right here. Usually streaming Tuesdays, Saturdays there. Like I said, playing Metal Gear. This is you guys playing Metal Gear Solid there. This is part 2, right? This is the part 2, Sons of Liberty.
That's the original.
Oh, that's
That's
the
the
original.
very first one. Or
Oh.
technically the third game if you count the MSX like original 8-bit ones, but I feel like most people haven't played those. So
Okay. So you're playing that one right there. So you've been on the
Sons of Liberty officially starts tomorrow.
Okay, that starts tomorrow there. Then you were playing a little bit of the Marvel token beta there, playing
yeah, which was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Really, really great design. It's kind of that like Marvel versus Capcom 2 from the 90s like feel. But just like a true modern successor, because they've done what they did a 3 and then the Infinite in like 2018. Those are both kind of disappointing compared to the old school stuff, and this feels like a real return to form. This is also Arc System Works, who did Dragon Ball Fighters back in 2018, which even being like, I'm not like a Dragon Ball fan, but I really liked that game just from the mechanics of it. Like, you could take the Dragon Ball branding away, and it's just a really well designed fighting game. So this is that team, and it's a property that I have more affinity for. So it's really really good stuff.
And this is YouTube right here. YouTube people also can check that out. So if they can't see the streams live there and go into that archive, they can check it out here on your YouTube, youtube.com, playing that. And you can see all the list of games that they have played there. You got things like Metal Gear Solid 4 there, Delta Snake Eater. You got things like Bayonetta. You got things like there, Max Payne, Spider-Man there, Elden Ring.
Me and Tim did every single From Software Souls game.
Okay, so you got that. That's also on here. So everything you can possibly imagine is right here. You got fighting games, you got action games, you got horror games, you got adventure games there, puzzle games, all the type of stuff there. All right here. Where the infinite maturity. So check that out there. Very awesome.
And if that's not enough for you, you can go on Amazon and buy my book about dinosaurs shooting each other in the face.
Got the book right there, which is also linked in your Twitter there. So if people want to pick up that, the link is in your Twitter bio there.
We're gonna run a promotion during the week of Christmas as well. So the digital version will be free for anybody to grab that week.
Okay, nice there. Yeah. And you sent my copy back already or no?
It should be showing up end of this week, beginning of next week.
Okay, gotcha. All right. All right. So again, I got my copy, just sent it to them to sign and then getting it back there. So can't wait to check it out. All right. Let's see here. So what did you guys want to start with first? As you want to
why not? Let's do Dispatch first.
Okay, Dispatch. Very good there. All right. I heard a lot about this game. Can't wait for you guys to talk about it there. And let me know all about it there. And this was nominated at the Game Awards, wasn't it? Dispatch?
Yeah, it's got one nomination for Best Debut Indie Game, and I would not be shocked if it wins.
Okay, very nice. All right, so Sage and Tim, let us know all about Dispatch.
This is kind of one of those came out of nowhere games. Like, yeah, it had a trailer and it was announced a while back, but I don't know that it got all that much attention. But it released episodically, and Ad Hoc Studios that did this is made up of some of the people that used to be Telltale Games way back in the day. And so if you've played any of those, like The Walking Dead, The Wolf Among Us, they had their Batman ones, there's a certain part of this formula you'll be familiar with, but this game eliminates a little bit of the, let's say, slow, kind of monotonous aspects of those games. Now, you go way, way back, Telltale, to like Sam and Max in like the early 2000s and the 90s. Those games had all these puzzle sequences, lots of like walking around in between the big story bits and the dialogue choices. And that worked really well with all of the puzzle elements. But once you get into the kind of the 2010s era with like Walking Dead and those types of games, the puzzle part really kind of fell away. So like when you would be given control over the characters and you'd walk around, it was kind of useless. Like, it was like you were just biding time to get to the next story part. And like, yeah, there were, these pick up these items and then use them sort of things, but like none of them were like really puzzles anymore. It was just very simplistic, like interact with a couple of things and then move on. And this game, I think, is honestly kind of the Telltale formula at its best, because it's eliminated some of that stuff and it is much more focused on just, here's the story, you're making the dialogue choices, they play out much more like a cutscene. There's quick time events for like the action scenes and stuff, but then where this game is special for the gameplay side of things is you literally are working as like a superhero dispatch officer, right? So you get this grid system, and you are actually actively like a first responder sending people out, or sending first responders out to like events happening live and in motion. And honestly, it's better gameplay than I think you've really had from any of those Telltale games. And I really enjoyed some of those. I really like the narratives of a lot of them. But this just is so much kind of more to the point. The only drawback there is I do think there maybe could be more of these sequences. I think they really start to show how complex they could be as a gameplay loop in the last episode, second to last episode. And by the time the game's over, I was thinking like, oh, I wish maybe there was like an endless mode, or like I feel like there's like some untapped potential in that sort of gameplay loop that I just wish there was a little bit more that we could do with it. As far as the story goes here, which is I think the real point of it and where it's like really shining, some of the just most charming cast of characters I think I've seen in a game in a while. Like this pick feels like picking up like a great sort of like IDW or Dark Horse comic book. In a lot of ways, it feels like it could be taking place in the same universe as like Invincible. Like it really has a similar sort of adult comedy, but with a lot of heart feel to it. You play as even the main character, voiced by Aaron Paul, is named Robert Robertson, which feels like a very like Peter Parker, J. Jonah Jameson, like old school Stan Lee alliteration sort of callback. And he's like a big time superhero, very much a little bit of an Iron Man sort of thing. He gets this big mech suit ruined at the beginning of the story, and he's just broke. He cannot afford to fix this thing. So there's this SDN, Superhero Dispatch Network, comes in, and they're like, hey, we'll help you fix this, but in the meantime, you need a job. And we have a last place, like rehabilitating former supervillains like team here, and no one can stand them. No one can deal with them. The last like 5 people we've gotten in to try and operate with them have quit within 2 days. Will you please step in and try and help us out with this? No, we don't expect any miracles, but give it your best. And I think the story here and a lot of the heart in it really does come from like a very classically like good hearted, and even with the adult comedy aspects in there, classically good hearted superhero character having like that real moral foundation of not giving up on people and really just kind of sticking by frankly terrible behavior that would have HR involved like 5 times a day, if even more than that. But yeah, this was really a big surprise. It was not on my radar until it was like halfway over. This also released episodically, so it was like, like 2 episodes a week for like, I want to say 4 weeks, and then it was over. But that release schedule really allowed it to build up like hype and attention in a way that I don't know if it would have if it was just dropped all at once.
All right. What about you, Tim?
I would say that it definitely does harken back to a lot of story decision games are either they fall into a lot of different categories or niches. You have things like Dear Esther, where it is just a walking simulator where you get narration and stuff as you go out. But this one, God bless it, takes away all the walking. You do not walk in this game, and I have never been more grateful for that decision. Truth be told, I played another game immediately after it. I tried playing Plague Tale, and I was kind of stricken by, God, all of this dialogue could have been delivered in a cutscene. And that is what Dispatch does, there are gameplay cutscenes where you are dispatching these heroes effectively and trying to figure out, like, all right, there's a burning building. Do I send the guy with fire, or do I send somebody else? And why am I sending somebody else? It takes a more interesting approach to how does the hero that shows up to the scene of the crime, how does that get picked? Is it just some guy behind a desk? And how hilarious would it be if you send that wrong hero and they get it right? Because every time you execute one of those little assignments and it goes right or wrong, you get some little feedback from the hero. You get a little bit of thing of like what the outcome was like. And those little vignettes into the day-to-day goings on of heroes stacked against this whole office setting where you then take superheroes off the beat and you get them into the place where there's the water cooler and the coffee and the guy who is 4 times bigger than the next guy just bumping into somebody, just like office etiquette. It's a balance that like The Boys has kind of looked at a little bit with like that aggressive corporate culture for superheroes. But this doesn't really feel like corporate culture, at least done to the aggressive degree.
It's more
It's
earnest.
it's more, yeah, it's more down to earth. It's more about it's more the Office corporate approach rather than
It's a
like
lovable office to be in.
yeah. And you're immediately introduced to a host of characters that you will be drawn to for some reason or another. It's a game that really does love to build off the comedy approach to dialogue and interpersonal connections that are built. And the decisions that you're afforded, I think, do a nice job of obfuscating what is going to be a bigger outcome generating decision. Like, a guy's being a dick to you at the bar. Do you throw a drink at him? Do you just ignore it? Do you take a sip of your own drink? You don't necessarily realize that when you make that decision, it's going to be echoed for chapters down the fucking story. They will be referencing shit like that. And sometimes they don't. Sometimes it doesn't even matter. But sometimes it does. And it keeps you guessing just enough to go, fuck, did I make the right decision? And then you find yourself replaying that chapter, genuinely wondering, like, what could I do different to manipulate this story so that by the time you're done with all 8 chapters, you do want to go back and play it again, or you want to see what your friends did. And I think that's where a lot of the appeal when it blew up, why the episodic release timetable that it had, was it gave people just enough time to go to work the next day, talk about this shit, have those people go, well, fuck, I want to play Dispatch now. And then gradually that kind of echoes and ripples. I
In a
started playing it because my wife at work was hearing about this shit from her coworker who was just like, oh yeah, have you met Waterboy yet? And she's like, I haven't picked it up yet. And he's like, come on. That water cooler pressure for a game that surrounds that water cooler talk is just kind of an interesting social dynamic that I think really played in its favor.
it is interestingly similar to, how I feel like we've lost it a little bit with like big TV shows. Like there's so many options and so many streaming services. A lot of the time, it doesn't feel like everybody's all watching the same show at the same time anymore. You go back to something like Breaking Bad being on TV, and it seemed like kind of everybody was paying attention to that. This game almost achieved a similar effect that TV back then would.
Mm. Um, and you mentioned this game here, and so you bring up The Boys there. So their look on superheroes is not very nihilistic. So in this game, it's kind of more hopeful, kind of more,
Yeah, yeah, and
yeah.
what you spend time with really in this game is, it's literally the Z team at this office, right? Like you're put in charge of the team in the last place that's the least effective, and it's a team, not just they're not just superheroes, but they are former like failed supervillains that have hit rock bottom and are in like a rehabilitation program. So that's where the sort of edgy, kind of dark, maybe cynical at times, like sense of humor can come in, but it is about these characters all trying to do better and like look up to superheroes that are in a more Marvel or DC sense, more kind of genuine and optimistic and hopeful characters. So there's this interesting balance that strikes between, an Invincible or The Boys, where it's dark and it has that biting sort of edge to it, but it feels in tone and what it's trying to achieve like more of a classic comic book.
Mm. Okay. And you mentioned Aaron Paul, so he's the voice of the lead here. Then people have also remarked about this game, the big voice cast and the talented
It's
voice cast you
huge.
got here. You got not only Aaron Paul, but you got Lauren Bailey, who's also in this as well. You also have Jeffrey Wright, who's a big get. He's a big actor in here
And
as well.
he's great too. He's got one of the best parts in this whole thing.
Okay, he's very cool there. Then you also have some other people in here, like Ashley Johnson, who's also very big in people. I know her, Last of Us as well. She did a lot of the voice and motion capture for that there as Ellie in that, so that was a big role there. Then you also have some other people in here that maybe are big content creators, YouTubers. There, you got people like Moist Criticals also in here. Alana Pierce, who has a big legacy in video games. There, worked on video games, does YouTube as well. Do all the voices work? Is there any kind of weak spot there in the voice work or no?
I honestly don't think there is. I think the whole cast does a great job. And going into it, I knew about all these sort of content creators and like streamers that are doing voices, and I did wonder. I was a little skeptical going in. I thought, does that seem gimmicky or is maybe distracting? Like, are they going to really fit these? But I think all the characters that they're given, one, they are like there's so many of them, and you get to have such great dynamics between all of them that everybody gets this like perfect kind of amount of time to shine, but then no one ever feels like they're totally overtaking sort of the core story, which is Aaron Paul driven, and Jeffrey Wright and Laura Bailey is kind of like the big characters that are really focused on. But they're also just the designs also do so much of the work. Like these great the character Moist Critical does the voice of is a like crypto tech bro who is also like a bat, like a man bat. So he's like a crypto tech
He
bro
kind of
man
looks
bat.
like the guy from Demon Slayer. He kind of looks a little bit like that a little bit. Except that guy wears
I
like
can see a little bit.
a pig head, right? That guy in Demon Slayer, right?
Yeah, I can see that. But it's like this dry sense of humor that they are able to pull off, and the designs and the voices all feel like they're really well matched together. And this show was actually supposed to be originally like literally a live action like TV series. This was not written to be animated at all. This was not written to be a video game. And this was pre-COVID that this was originally getting made, and that just shut the whole project down. And then for a while they weren't sure if they were going to make it at all, and they got this idea like, okay, maybe we do it as a video game, or maybe we go with this animated thing. And then that wasn't even totally working out. And then Critical Role, which people would be familiar with as like a D&D sort of like streaming show, and that's a lot of the people that are from that are on here. I mean, Ashley Johnson's been in that. Laura Bailey's a big part of that series. Her husband, Travis Willingham, is a character in this. He's also a big voice in the game. The Critical Role kind of came in and helped get this over the finish line and basically allowed this to happen. The studio here was basically prepared to finish this and release it and then go out of business and never really do anything else, because they didn't think it was going to be as big as a success as it was. I mean, I don't know if it's hit 2 million, but they managed to cross like 1 million copies by the time all the episodes were out. So it's a very interesting sort of development history.
Gotcha. Okay. And some of these characters seem like they've become iconic already. Do either you guys, Tim, you got a favorite character in this Dispatch series here?
I really enjoyed God, I am blanking on the name of it, but I am gonna look it up real quick. Waterboy was my second favorite character. I really wasn't expecting him to be, but they managed to take this side character and just turn it into something that, depending on the decisions you make, can really just turn into this impactful, poignant kind of plotline, to the point where I found myself tearing up during one of his line deliveries about just not having this confidence in himself because he keeps proving himself to be like everything that people think he is. They call him a klutz, and he is a klutz. How is he supposed to break out of that if that's all he's ever known himself to be? But then he breaks out of that. But Alana Pierce's performance as Malevola, I think, was my favorite. Just because she had a lot of fun with the role. In some of the talks she's done since, she really just was given a lot of space to kind of go how she wanted with the role, just kind of make the character your own, and she did. And I think the design of her just wearing heels while also very much still, having that hard, I will cut you in half with my demonic sword, while balanced with the just like, depending on who you're pairing her with on these missions, she'll just go like, oh yeah, let's pick up some fucking tops while we're out. Yeah. She's just a very well-rounded character, and I think it's the voice is like the voice actress having, I don't know,
Okay.
just fun with it. Voice
Mm,
actors having fun with it, I think, is what gets for me a lot of these characters. Just
mm,
nobody doesn't seem to fit their role.
mm. Okay, very interesting. I think this character is the creator said that it was based on another online personality, Lean Beef Patty. I think he said a mix of her and then Sydney Crawford, the model.
Hmm.
So it's a mix of her. I know you probably guys know Sydney Crawford
Oh yeah.
there, the model there, and then also, so this is the content creator Lean Beef Patty. Let me pull up a photo of her there. So I don't know if you can maybe see the similarities there if you see that.
Oh
So
yeah, I could definitely see the body type. When I saw it, I mean, I'm just very comic minded, so I was like She-Hulk meets Hellboy sort of a vibe. But
Mhm.
I could totally see that real life inspiration for it too. If I had to pick a favorite, and I think the whole cast is fantastic, but Jeffrey Wright as Chase is, I think, just he's so good. He's sort of an older brother figure to Aaron Paul's main lead character, and he's a speedster. He's a Flash type character, but the little twist they throw in is using his power. He goes 50 times faster than the average person, but he also makes him age 50 times faster. So he's this old man. He's not even 40 years old. And he talks like someone in their 30s, and it's just this really great contrast to how he physically feels on the outside, and how he's sort of that kind of person that's like, even when they're young, they're very like curmudgeonly and disagreeable, and so it's not because of how he looks that he's like that. That's just who he is.
mm, okay, very Albert Einstein there. Gotcha.
Someone calls him, someone makes an Einstein joke at one point in the game too.
Okay, and doesn't he have like a son in it or a grandson or something like that in
No,
it?
no, no. The thing is he's a young guy too. He's really not a very old. Um,
Oh, so
but
this is just like a flashback when
yeah,
he's.
that's him. That's
Oh,
him.
okay, gotcha. Okay. Very good there. Okay, so good to know the characters are pretty engaging there. So the decisions you make in this, are they? You mentioned Tim mentioned they were people like Waterboy make these kind of impactful decisions. So all the decisions in the game really feel very impactful, meaningful, makes you want to play through the game and maybe have a different outcome every time. There?
I'd agree with that. I think a lot of it does. I think like similar to the Telltale games. I think there are certain elements of it that they're not quite as malleable as maybe like like a super deep complex like RPG might be. But that's not the point either, right? There's a narrative structure here we're following, and within that narrative structure, I think more so than say Walking Dead or Wolf Among Us, I think there is a lot more malleability than kind of the classic Telltale stuff is. It feels like an evolution of that, where it's a little more fleshed out. And in a broader plot sense, I think it doesn't change too much how things can play out in that sort of larger story beat sense. But what this game is really focused on, and what it's really really good at, is the interpersonal conflicts and elements of the characters, and that's where the choices feel like they have a very wide range of ways that they can play out. You could have a decently different looking team of people by the end of the game, depending on choices you make. There's an early, I think it's either episode 2 or 3. I can't remember if it's 2 or 3, but one of them, there's like somebody has to get like cut from the team, and that can have a wide range of impacts on like later episodes, and that lead to sort of a domino effect of other different things that can happen and change. So it really does have way more to it than I think games of this type have in the past. Um, but also all of what was great about those at the same time.
Mm, okay. Do you agree, Tim? Or-
Yeah, I found, like, as the game went on, the impact and variability of outcomes in the answers or responses that you're giving for these multiple choices that you're thrown, uh, they're paired with how well you do on these dispatch sequences and the outcomes of, like, if you really bomb one of these dispatch, you'll fuck up all your things. That will carry over into the story for the next episode. Uh, and that combination really kind of is interesting when you take some of these more overt things where it's just like, yeah, you have to cut somebody. Is it A or B? And subsequently, like, if you're given the choice of just like, all right, well, we're considering somebody for the team, who would you want? And there's a decision that some people would consider an obvious one, and that has some wildly hilarious things that follow in that you would not imagine for picking that character. And subsequently, there's one that you think is going to be, that I thought was going to be the more ha 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 slapstick kind of thing, but it ended up being more kind of just like exploring a little bit how villains talk to people when they're not trying to be villains anymore. They're just used to being an asshole, used to not really caring about things beyond that surface level when it comes to people you don't really know. And uh like that more emotional, that more analytical kind of approach to some of those lesser thought about sides of superhero work is, I think, what makes the narrative really interesting. Because yeah, it is cut somebody from the team, but
Mm,
when you carry over the echoes of that decision, it doesn't just feel like you're making a bunch of A or B or C answers. It's this combination, this network of choices that branches to the point where I am fully cognizant that my game ending looked way different than other people's.
mm,
And I think that's, if you're going to have a multiple choice oriented game, that's what you got to go with. You got to have something that reflects it. Telltale had a proclivity or a penchant for falling into the, you have two choices. It doesn't matter which choice you make. We will be getting to the next plot point and it will be roughly the same. That's not all of their games, but that was a few of the Walking Dead ones, to
I
the
think
point
what
where,
they would do often was it would do a good job of giving you the illusion of choice on a first playthrough, and it would feel very impactful as a single narrative. But then when you'd go back and try and make other choices, things would still feel kind of railroaded towards the same conclusion. Whereas here, it is that kind of greater sense of variety on a multiple playthroughs.
mm. Okay. I've seen a lot of also this character too. Blonde Blazer. So she's supposed to be like, what does she do there?
She is a walking HR violation, man. No, she is a supervisor, and also there's very, I mean, a huge part of this is, there is a very sort of romantic subplot going on with two different characters, and there's very much you can end up with neither of them too. That is like legit a choice in it, but a lot of it, again, the interpersonal conflict of the whole thing really does feel like, that, and kind of who you're choosing to like flirt with or maybe kind of view as a potential romantic interest. That has a huge development on the plot as well, and it doesn't feel, I can tell, I think the writers do favor one a bit more than the other, but I also don't think it feels like you're railroaded into one choice either.
Mm. And then I also see people. There's that loser guy. Who voices him? The one with the mustache, the big guy.
Oh god, that's Travis Willingham, who is Laura Bailey's husband in real life.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, nice, nice there. All right. And this game is priced at $30, correct?
Yeah, not a lot, especially kind of in the current market of games. This year in particular, Clear Obscure, Mafia: The Old Country. We've seen a few that have been going with that like $49 dollar price point. And Telltale games in general were always a bit cheaper too, and this being a similar style, kind of fits along that line of pricing. But it's just another example this year of some of the most successful games being these games that are a bit smaller in scope, but very effective at what they're doing and priced lower because they're not wasting a bunch of resources on like extra mechanics that don't need to be in the game.
Like walking.
Like walking.
Okay. And you can play this on all platforms.
Yep.
PC there, console there. Tim, you played on PC?
I played it on PlayStation.
Okay, you played on PlayStation. Okay.
It was one of those few games where I found myself with people in the house willing to sit down next to me while I played it, not without being asked, or like they just, I've been standing here 10 minutes. I'm gonna take a seat.
Okay, so I see PC there, Windows, PlayStation, but not on the Switch. So you can't play it on the Switch.
I guess that's the one exception.
You can't play it on that.
It'll get announced for the Switch too one of these days.
Yeah. Good amount of content. How long are the episodes there?
They can range, I'd say, anywhere from about 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
So they're pretty solid. So about 8 hours. It feels like a solid whole season's worth of television.
Okay. Okay, you froze there for a second. Okay, but I still heard what you said, but you kind of froze there. All right. What will be your final thoughts rating, Sage?
I think I'm going to give it a full-on peak, man. I think the writing here is great. The characters are very charming. Their dynamics with each other is really good. There's so much snappy dialogue and banter between all of them. They audibly laughed out loud a number of times. It's sitting by myself, and I generally, even when I find something funny, I tend not to laugh out loud if I'm sitting there kind of playing it alone or experiencing it alone. But I did a few times here. I was just laughing to myself, no one else in the room. And the drama here is effective too, and genuinely really works. And these characters are very, very likable. Now, if I will say, this will be my one caveat: if you just don't like, if you've never liked any of the Telltale games, you've never liked any of these kind of wholly narrative sort of styles of game, if you don't like long cutscenes in Metal Gear because you don't feel like you're playing the game enough, I don't think this is necessarily going to change those people's minds. It's probably still not for them. But if you've ever enjoyed any of these types of things, I think this is kind of a must play of this style.
Okay. Peak from Sage. What about you, Tim?
I'm gonna go with This Is Cinema.
Wow.
It is incredible for me. I did find myself really, like laughing out more than I have for most other games. There were some parts of the game that I felt really dragged. Like if you found yourself having to reload a sequence, there wasn't a whole lot of control over like
how far back.
There's not that much wiggle room for some of these checkpoints. And if you have things like a console crash, or not a console crash, the game crashing, which did happen a couple times for me. It's a little frustrating. But overall, I think the game is something that I would wholly and enthusiastically encourage people to, at the very least, check out. It's one of the games that I would consider very watchable if you don't intend on playing it. Find somebody with a good personality or somebody you can enjoy a reaction from, and give it a try through their eyes, because it is not something that I think will disappoint.
Nice. This is Cinema from Tim and a peak from Sage for Dispatch there, available now. Any decision that you guys how many times have you played it all the way? Have you played it multiple times all the way through? Or
I just played it the once, and then I went and I watched some of the other outcomes just for the sake of brevity and being able to move on to other stuff. But some of the stuff it can be very different.
Okay. Very nice there. So Tim, how many times have you played it all the way through?
I've watched it, or I played it once, and then I watched one of my friends play it once. and then I've checked out a couple streamers playing bits and pieces of it. It's definitely one game where I find myself really genuinely interested to see how other people are playing it.
Okay. Any decision you guys made in the game, you can say that maybe I don't know if you want to spoil it, you don't want to spoil it, but that you regret making, or something that you look back on terribly, or what? Any decision like that in the game?
Not for me, at least.
Okay. What about you
Uh,
there, Tim?
I don't regret for a moment spiking my drink in that asshole at the bar's face.
Mm,
That
okay,
was a particularly favorite outcome of mine.
gotcha. Is that the guy? I think we saw in the trailer the guy that looked like the Scorpion. Is that dude that looked like?
Yeah, the
Mhm.
guy
Oh,
with the ridiculous ponytail.
okay, gotcha. Okay, well there you go. That was Sage Tim's review of Dispatch. All right. Did you guys want to move on to Ghost of Tsushima there?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay. And then Tim, that's the only thing you've played, right? You just did that, and then you didn't do the Indiana Jones DLC, right?
I did not.
Okay. So are you heading out of here after the Ghost of Tsushima review? Okay, gotcha.
We-
All right. Let's pull this up. So, Sage and Tim have a review of Ghost of Tsushima there. They played the multiplayer missions there, so they were waiting to do that before they give their full review of it. Doing a review for this since Ghost of Yote is out right now. Ghost of Yote is doing pretty well. The Ghost of Yote also a big nominee at the Game Awards this year. So I think it had 7 nominations, I believe.
7, I'm pretty sure is right. Yeah.
So it was tied for yeah, right behind it was tied with another game that was pretty big this year too.
Expedition 33 led with the most nominations.
They
That's
led
got
with
12.
they led with the most, and then 2 games had 7, Ghost of Yote, and I'm
Might
blanking
have
on what
been Death Stranding 2.
that was what it was. Death
Okay.
Stranding 2
Yeah.
on the beach. That's what it
I
was
figured
there.
that had a lot of nominations too. Yeah.
So yeah, but these guys are gonna give their thoughts. Ghost of Tsushima. Sage Tim, take it away.
It's kind of an amazing game to look back at because this is 5 years old now. And it's something I've been saying, I think, for a good number of years is that I think the sort of shelf life of how much a video game ages over time, I think, is getting longer and longer. Like, you know, in 2010, a game that was 5 years old is the difference between God of War 1 and God of War 3, right? Massive leap in technology and what like how that is perceived as like a retro game. This is 5 years old, and I feel like it looks like it could have come out this year. Like, it's very much in this camp of, we'll see if that maintains true over a really long amount of time, but it's starting to feel like we get games like this that really feel timeless. I was like obsessed with this when this came out. I don't platinum a lot of games just because I don't always find the trophy part of the whole experience or the achievement part of it as interesting as just getting through like the story and engaging with the mechanics. But I like could not get enough of this. I squeezed out like every little ounce of this game that there was, and this was before they even had a multiplayer mode at all. But this just whole journey of Jin Sakai and the sort of conflict family, both of the foreign military of the Mongols, and then also the interpersonal conflict of his family and his uncle, the story of honor versus pragmatism. It's it's like it really kind of is hitting up there with, at least for me, some of the best of like samurai films and cinema that we've ever gotten. And I think that as time goes on, it really does go to show just how powerful the medium video games can be. When I feel like we're starting to really get these things that are like as good as some of the best films in the same genre.
Nice. And very cinematic. People talk about this game there, the Kurosawa mode you can have in this, which makes a return in Yote as well there. Yeah. Tim, what's your thoughts? Ghost of Tsushima there.
It's a game that I think everyone was hearing about in some capacity when it came out, and for good reason. Really took this approach of historical reverence, but while also being really creative with history in the mythical sense that it tends to take with the perspective of hundreds of years from these happenings. And pays off in this game where you stop to write a haiku that is then put on a headband that you have that you can just that is in your inventory, and it's a reminder of that little haiku you composed sitting at this fucking hot spring overlooking the cherry blossom fields. uh it takes place in the span of weeks, but the way the game is created or the environment is designed, you walk through the 4 seasons, you see the various ways the elements are interacting with these 4 seasons, as well as how these seasons impact the surrounding feel. Like the falling leaves tell a story, that kind of thing. You are surrounded with such a beautiful world that the bloodshed and horrors of war just sit in such stark contrast to it that you can't help but be transfixed by it. Because I found myself alternating between going after an objective, following this really intense story, and getting caught by the beauty of the bamboo grove I was walking through. And that's something that I've seen echoed in literature before, from people who were in war. Like one of the things that Vietnam veterans talked about was just how wonderfully beautiful the forest was when it wasn't trying to kill you. And I think that's something that this game does wonderfully. You stop to smell the fucking roses. It really does do a good job of trying to layer upon you the different levels of art and culture relevant to the region, um, in such a way that, like, the island of Tsushima does have a statue commemorating the freaking game.
And some of the
Because
developers are official ambassadors to that island now.
yeah, and it really goes a ways towards showing that you are playing a game that's not just going to be a hodgepodge of cultural motifs. They really do try to pay reverence to the history of the topic that they're talking about, because it is a real conflict that happened. Not exactly as the game plays, because it is done through a very mythical lens. You're following this ghost that is supposed to be this one-man army that is born from his almost defeat at the hands of the Mongols and his perceived rebirth by those that had viewed him as dead. And also his own perceived rebirth as he finds himself questioning his views of honor and the Bushido Code, and how he is trying to respond to this tragedy befalling his nation around him while adhering to all of the most important notions that he'd been raised and trained upon. Um, so it is a very beautiful game, not just aesthetically, but I think also narratively and also culturally. It
Yeah, I think it excels in all those areas and weaves them together with a lot of skill. This is something that, like, the people making this, they did their research and then they did it 7 more times to make sure they knew what they were talking about. After this game came out, you actually saw a lot of Japanese, because this is not a Japanese studio. Sucker Punch, I believe, is based in the U.S. if I'm not mistaken, and I could be wrong on that. Maybe it's European, but I'm pretty sure it was at least the kind of main uh, head developers are American.
Yes, it is. It's
Okay, it
American.
is. A lot of Japanese developers were saying, like, after this game came out, like, wow, we're almost a little embarrassed. We've kind of haven't been telling game stories set in Japan or making games set in a Japanese setting. And there was a period kind of during the PS3 360 era, especially, like, you saw studios like Capcom, I think, do this a lot, where these old school Japanese video game studios were really going for a Western market and not so much a domestic market for their own country. And I think this game was like a big wake up call to like, wow, there's so much rich stuff here. Why aren't we doing that? And now I think you're starting to see a lot more of those. Capcom's doing Onimusha again. Like they brought that franchise back. And so I think this game, not only is it an amazing game that is this incredible work of art. I mean, genuinely, you could pause this game almost anywhere and hang the image on a wall as a painting, and it would look perfectly in place in an art museum. But it also inspired kind of a whole industry or a domestic country's industry to look at their own cultural roots and reach back and go like, why don't we do more stuff like this again? Like, let's go. And you're starting to see that come. Some of these games start to come out now. Like I say, Onimusha, that's just going to be next year. And so it's like a big impact outside of even just itself.
Yeah. And this game initially came out on the PS4 there. Now it's been 5 years later. It's gotten an update and it's been on the PS5 now. And Windows, things like that.
It was sort of a swan song for the whole PlayStation 4 console.
Yeah, it came out towards the tail end of it. So it came out PlayStation 4 2020, July 1st, July 17th, I'm sorry, 2020 there.
And that was just a few months before the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X released. So it really kind of felt like this is the last hurrah, squeezing all the final amount of power we can out of the PS4 system. Like, here's Sony's last big exclusive for that generation.
Yeah. And did you guys, so now that it's been 5 years later, have you only played the base version of the game? Or have you done the director's cut version of Ghost of
I've
Tsushima?
returned to it here and there over time. I haven't done like a full playthrough of the whole game, but I've gone back to it and just to explore and to play some of it and try out stuff like Kurosawa mode or play it like in the English version and the Japanese version, get a little bit of that experience. And the fact that there are so many ways you could kind of approach the game and replay it and get like a slightly different experience with it, I think speaks to just, again, how much effort went into the whole thing. And it holds up, man. It holds up. And I feel like it's just as good when it came out as now as it was when it came out. I really don't think there's been any great loss there. The combat system is fantastic. I love how it's about a much fewer number of careful, precise strikes that make the combat feel a little more realistic. Like, hey, somebody can only get hit with the sword 1, 2, 3 times at the most before they are going to be dead. And this game really feels like when you look at like a samurai film and you see those battles where, it's more about the buildup of it and then the fight, it happens in just a few seconds really. But the speed and sort of power of that feels so genuine to sort of real life warfare in a way. And yeah, certainly, of course, not 100%. There's gamified elements of it. You're not going to forget you're playing a video game necessarily, but it does manage to get closer than I think a lot of games do to that.
Okay. How do you guys feel about the combat? Tim, you mentioned that there a little bit of kind of the style of it, this kind of how it plays in warfare. And people also remarked about this game when it came out as well, about how it's like, hey, Assassin's Creed, this is what we wanted from them to do, a samurai kind of type game, and Sucker Punch beat them to the punch with Ghost of Tsushima. How you feel about that, Tim?
I think that, yeah,
Ubisoft are idiots.
I think, well, you compare it to Assassin's Creed, and yeah, that is a pretty fair assessment, because Assassin's Creed, I would say, is one of the more action-oriented stealth games with a more robust combat system for the eventuality of getting caught. But this one definitely, you could play the entire game with no stealth mechanics, be really true to and honorable out front about confronting each person face to face. You could play the entire thing through in stealth, save for a couple sequences, and ultimately, I really did like the combat. I found myself, given the chance, just murdering as many invaders as I could, just because you could really, with the combat system, have a nice flow going of hailing down arrows at a range, deflecting and parrying things, and just working your way through a field utilizing the environment, like explosive pots, or doing just enough subterfuge to get rid of the enemies by this one big guy. You really just, if you find yourself bored of any one approach to the game, it presents a reasonable alternative. And I think it's really, really worthwhile for that.
Yeah. How the boss battles? The boss battles, they pretty challenging? They're pretty good?
I love the boss battles in this game because that's where it really starts feeling like truly like a samurai film at its best, because there are these very kind of slow rhythmic duel sequences, and they always happen under these like the most gorgeous, like painting-esque environments in the game. They're honestly incredible. I don't know if I ever found them like especially challenging, but I've always found them interesting to engage with. Though I don't know if I ever thought it was like super hard either.
Okay. Is there a difficulty slider on here, or
Yeah. I just played it on normal. There's definitely a hard. You could bump it up if you feel like it's a little too easy.
okay? What level did you play it on, Tim?
I played it on the hardest difficulty I could, or that was available when you first started, and I really liked the challenge. I thought that if you really just want to breeze through the story, you can put it on an easier one, and that would work just fine. But if you're looking for something more challenging that's working to utilize the full kit presented to you when it comes to combat and stealth, I think, yeah, just crank up the difficulty and see how creative you can get with the problem solving they present you with. That ultimately is why I was able to play the game through without any breaks, even with it being as long as it was, if you combine the DLC with the base game. Because, yeah, like, just vary your stuff up, and each enemy has a counter. They make a very conscientious effort to make sure that there is a direct response, there is a thing you can do. You will learn the mechanisms at play here and how to use them to your advantage. And in that way, it did remind me a bit of a FromSoft game, just in the fact that you're here, there's going to be a shit ton of combat. The enemies might seem insane if you're playing at the highest difficulty, but there's a method and rhyme that you learn with time.
Mm, okay, very nice there. So it had the game at its hardest difficulty. I mean, is it still very? Is it so extremely challenging there? You think that maybe normal people that they can't try that, or do you think it's
I
pretty
would say it's
weak?
actually approachable, even
Okay.
at its highest difficulty.
Just
It's
requires patience and like willingness to kind of engage with each of the systems instead of just going like, all right, I got my thing, my basic sword. I'm just going to go attack everybody with that.
they
Okay.
do, like, the highest difficulty does force you to engage more with the stealth mechanic, because you can't just take on an entire camp of enemies. You could. It is
If you're
just,
really good at it, you can.
if you're really good at it and you've got all the timing down, go for it. But if you stealth a little bit, uh, and make use of the lesser known systems, like archery, because that one is another one that's really easy to forget that you can just whip out and use in the middle of a melee skirmish.
Mm. And how big is this game? It's an open world game. What about the main story? How long did it take you guys to complete the main story? And then did you also try to 100% it? Did you 100% it?
I
Yeah.
did. I did everything that was possible to do. I think so just the main story, I believe it took me about 30 hours, maybe 26, 27, maybe a few less than that. The 100%, it was something like 60, 70 hours.
Okay. All right. The same kind of time for you, Tim. That's pretty much
Yeah,
average.
I wrapped it up around 65, 68 hours. And of course, I've added more after the fact, because it is a game that is really nice to revisit just for the visual and acoustic aesthetic. But the main story only took me like a good 30 hours to beat. It was not even half the total play time for this game.
And this game is something I point to when I talk about how I have open world fatigue in kind of current games industry and how so many, Assassin's Creed is a great example, Far Cry, a lot of Ubisoft stuff, but it's certainly not the only ones either. But a lot of open world games have this very repetitive game design. You're doing a lot of the same things over and over again, and it wants you to do it for 200, 300 hours, and it's just so much time to sink in, especially when it feels as repetitive as it does. But this, I think, is so much more reasonable of a amount of time to spend. 30 hours, that to me, that's like perfect for an open world story. And then if there's more stuff there, if you really want to do everything, which I did, but if you want to get your story and get out, 30 hours, I feel like is not bad at all for something that's open world. And then there's more if you want. But it's just to compare it to some of these other ones, that we have lately that, it takes, you're going to spend 100 hours on this, and you're going to be doing 10 things for 10 hours a piece. It just, to me, it kind of shows up all that rest of the genre, and just really, it makes it easier to articulate what I think is wrong with other open world games.
And the side missions and everything like that's pretty interesting, pretty engaging.
There's a few different types too. So like you have one type of side mission that is like very narrative heavy. These side missions are attached to big NPCs that have names and their own subplots. Those I think are fantastic, really, really great. Then you have another type of side mission that are these sort of mythical reinterpretations of things that are happening in the game, and those are very cool. It's another kind of whole separate subcategory there. Because the main game, nothing supernatural in it, it's pretty grounded in the real world. But then those missions are sort of an excuse to have some mythological elements crop up every now and then, and have them not exactly count in the main narrative. And then you've got beyond that, you've got your somewhat of your collectibles that you might have in a typical open world game. But what I think makes them a lot more fun to actually engage with here is every one of these collectibles, and a lot of them are specifically not even tied to Japanese culture, but to Mongolian culture, because a lot of them you're finding in like enemy encampments and stuff. All of them have a not too long, but decently little nice readable sort of explanation of what they are. And I'm someone that I find Mongolian history particularly interesting, as like ancient history. And so for me, at least, getting to just see all that stuff in the game, it felt like a Mongolian natural history museum exhibit in part, because there is a lot of this very authentic sort of, oh, here's this tool, here's this piece of clothing, here's this dishware. It's a lot of, and maybe not everybody's going to be as into that as I was, but I found the small stuff like that is very much part of the real culture, just absolutely gratifying to run around and get every single one of them.
Okay.
It does very much so feel like you're in a museum at certain parts, like picking up a certain ceremonial headpiece and getting the little history behind it. That is exactly the kind of shit I would be doing at the local history museum. And that they bring that in such a grounded way, integrate it with the game, and bring it to such a larger audience that, again, has been genuinely underserved in this kind of game. I thought it was a genius move. And from what I've heard, they've really carried that with Yote as well.
And it's the kind of thing I think is great to see a video game do in general. And it's not the only one, too. Like, I mean, some of the better Assassin's Creed games do also do this, although we're going back a number of years to talk about this. But, sometimes you hear stories about kids like, they don't read as much anymore. Or they're not as interested in going to, they want to look at screens all day. But if you can then find a way to inject some of that educational, some of that actual real world knowledge into something that that maybe younger people are interested in spending their time with, you can trick them into learning.
Okay. Very cool there. Did this pop up in the game at all?
Get on my shitty wall! You hear me? Yeah.
No, nothing like that happened at all.
Nothing quite like that.
Okay.
Maybe a DLC.
Those goddamn Mongolians were destroying lots of walls just as parts of structures.
That's true.
Okay. Yeah. And so with this game here, it's sold incredibly well there. It says so far, by September 2024, it says sold over 13 million units. There, the year it came out, it was nominated for several in awards, including Game of the Year, at the Game Awards there. So it was highly anticipated there. And people complain with the sequel, Ghost of Yote, that they want to see more of Jin's character. Do you think Jin's character? Do you want to see more of his character? Or you think it's fully wrapped up here? And that's it.
I honestly think it is fully wrapped up. At the end of the game, that core narrative that they're telling, I didn't feel like there was anything left unexplored. And even in real life, I mean, because there's two Mongol invasions of Japan that happened, and they're quite far apart. So, if they were to do a time jump and then try and like set a sequel during the second Mongol invasion of Japan, I feel like the character would be too old for it to be like a fun game. You'd start to have like, Harrison Ford and Dial of Destiny, sort of like this character's too old for this to make sense or be fun in the same way. So, and like I said, I think the themes are very, very well wrapped up at the end. I think they make the point they're trying to make. The narrative peaks and it ends, and I don't think there's a need to really revisit that. And I think the fact that Yote is such a large, and again, I haven't gotten to play it yet. I'm very excited to, but I think that it's set so far in the future with a different character, and it's just exploring a different era of Japanese history. I think that's the best choice that you could have made, honestly.
Mm. Tim, do you think that the uh, Ghost of Tsushima, one of the best games of the PS4 era there? I know it came at the tail end, but do you think it's like maybe one of the best, or top 10, top 5 best PlayStation
I
4
would
games?
say it's at the very least in the top 10. I will say it wholeheartedly depends on what you prefer in a game. Like if you subsist solely off of Madden games, you're not going to be swayed. But
You're a
if
big
you
Fortnite
are a
guy.
fan of open world games with heavy historical context, games that have a nice focus on artistic appreciation and cultural appreciation, I think this has got to be a game that you play at some point. And it utilizes the PlayStation 4's hardware in such an excellent way that playing it on a PlayStation 5, I'm like, yeah, I could be convinced that that was from this generation, that I had been playing a remaster or something. So I generally think it is a game that if you're looking at PlayStation 4, that has to be counted in one of the landmark games that you think of the PlayStation 4 and you think of that game.
I know I definitely do, and for the year it came out, I like The Last of Us too. I know it's a divisive game, and there's a lot of people that weren't big fans of it for both legit and not legit reasons that people give. And I still really liked it, but that one game of the year that year, and I think this deserved it over that personally.
Mm. Let me see what other. Do you remember what other games were nominated that year? I can take a look here.
I'd have to look them up too. I don't remember off the top of my head. I just know Last of Us 2 won, and even though I think it's a good game, I really do. I did think this was better.
Okay, very nice there. While I'm looking that up there, if you guys want to give your final thoughts, rating there for Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, and I saved my one sort of criticism of the game for the end, and I'm not going to let this necessarily affect the rating I give, because it was a bonus that was added for free like a year after the game came out. So I don't think it's even necessarily fair to rate it based on this. But after having given the multiplayer a good chunk of time and explored like what it is, I do think it's kind of half-assed and pretty simplistic and basic. I don't think there's all that much to it. A fun time for sure, especially if you have someone to play it with that you just have fun playing games with, like me and Tim did. We did a whole stream of all the or at least all of the 2-player kind of story-led multiplayer missions. There's also 4-player multiplayer, which is a little more like no story at all and just doing like little like mission markers on a big map. And I played some of that back when the multiplayer first launched as well, and it's kind of the same thing. I just feel like it's a little basic, and it's like repurposed and sort of asset reuse, which again, not a bad thing to reuse assets either. In fact, sometimes it would be better if game studios did that to keep budgets down. But that being said, it's just not adding all that much to the experience, I don't think. And there might be people who are big fans of it. Maybe it worked for some people better than me. But I would say that to me is the weakest aspect of the whole experience. But again, it was a free update way after the game came out. I'm rating the game based on its single player mode. I'm giving it a This Is Cinema based on that.
Okay. What about you, Tim?
I was gonna say I think that this is peak for me. I think that this is a game that really does hold on its own years after the fact in a way that I wasn't fully anticipating. Like, yeah, we've gotten juggernauts like Elden Ring, and well, I think this game it still has name power. If you say Ghost of Tsushima, people are going to remember it. They're going to know quality that something is being compared to. And ultimately, I think it is a game that really deserves, like I said, a playthrough from anybody that wants a good 30-hour game to play through, because you're going to end up with a experience that I believe to be rather unique, even in the aftermath of the gaming landscape partially created by this game's success. And I guess maybe that's one thing you look for if you want to look for a hallmark of success for this game, is think about how many games can attribute their drive, their ambition, in part to the success that this game has shown the player base will respond to those things with. So yeah, at that, I can't really give it anything else other.
And I'll say, Neil's got me even more excited to play Ghost of Yote, because if he says it's even better than Ghost of Tsushima, then, I mean, to me, that just sounds like crack that I can't wait to, just get into a whole bag of it.
Okay. Interesting there. So Game Awards there. So yeah, Game of the Year. So yeah, last one was Part 2 won. So this year you also had Animal Crossing New Horizons. You had Doom Eternal. You had Final Fantasy VII Remake. And then you had Ghost of Tsushima, and then you also had Hades. More Game of the Year.
That's quite a few good things. Hades, I think Hades actually might be what I would have given it to overall, but Ghost of Tsushima over The Last of Us 2, I think, for sure.
Ghost of Tsushima ended up winning Best Art Direction. It won that at the Game Awards there. And looks like I'm looking to see if it won anything else in the other categories it won. It seems like player voice as well. Ghost of Tsushima also won that one as well. It seems like that was the 2 awards that it won. So you had that. Very cool there. So Sage gives it a This Is Cinema for Ghost of Tsushima, and Tim gives it a peak. Very good. All right. Thank you, Tim. Thank you so much, man. Much appreciated. Thanks for having you on, as always, man. When can we see you again?
Well, we'll go ahead and have me on the next time you're reviewing something I've played, because or the next time you've got something I can haul ass on, because there's always a good reason lying in afternoon tune for playing something new.
I will say one of the trailers we're going to discuss is for Trigun. If Tim is like the biggest Trigun person I know, so
I can pull up that trailer real quick. We can get into the trailers there, so I can do that. So it's Trigun Stargaze, and we could do since Tim is a big fan of it, we could do that. So this is the official trailer 2 here for this. And like I said, he was on for review when we did this. This is I guess you could say, reboot of the Trigun series there that came out in the 90s a little bit. Kind of a reboot of that. Let's get into this. This is Trigun Stargaze, trailer 2.
感動の再会だ。
今度こそ彼を止める。だけど僕は誰も殺さない。
ミリオンズ・ナイブスの目的は人間に搾取され続けてきたプラントを救い、プラントの楽園を作ること。
The animation seems a little bit more improved there from the last Trigun series. I'd say a little bit sharper there. I would say
a little sharper, a little smoother.
正しい道筋を進みたい。
ミリオンズナイブスも同じさ。
お前のおかげで足踏みの末、さらに多くの同胞が絞るだけ絞り取られて食い潰された。間もなく約束の時が来る。火事一つやで、とんがり。
パペットショーの
始まりです。目覚めの時だ。
今から聞く音は貴様が人生の
And this is the only version of it, right? There's no English version of it. This is-
Not yet that I've seen.
Okay. And people are listening, yeah, so we're just watching the Japanese of that's the only version of it.
And I will
Yeah.
say that Millions Knives Japanese voice actor was imprisoned for fraud, and so that is a different actor doing his voice in the Japanese version.
Ah, okay. He's in prison for fraud. All right.
He
They
only
gonna
had
let him out?
thousands knives.
Yeah.
小賢しい。
誰や、お前。
僕を止めたければここだ。
バッシュさん、あなたの荷物を私たちも一緒に背負います。あなた一人で戦っているのではないって。はい、バッシュさん、ソニアさん、笑ってください。チーズ。
And they're playing a song here, so I'll kind of mute this because they're doing that. But what do you guys think? What do you think here? So far?
Well, I, right off the bat, I think you're right. I think the animation does look a little bit better, even. And I think the first season had really great 3D animation. I mean, a lot of the times you see 3D pop up in anime, it can be kind of like a oh no moment because often it is not handled super well. As time has gone on, I think it's been implemented better and better. But this particular studio with Trigun, even the first season, I think is some of the best anyone has done with the 3D CG animation. And this does look like another evolution of it. But it also just feels like, again, compared to the 98 anime, this just feels like it is capturing a greater sense of scale from the manga that series never really quite managed to do. And, to be fair, it was because the manga was not
Roughly
close.
25% done by the time
Yeah.
the show had to finish.
Yeah. So there was so much of the manga that just wasn't even out yet at the time. So it's like totally fair that it was not doing that. But with the benefit of a complete source material, this just feels like it's able to go and capture so much more of what that is.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
will say that there is definitely a vocal portion of the population that insists that the sound design and the soundtrack of the 98 version are vastly superior to Trigun Stampede, and gauging by this Stargaze as well, because instead of going for more of the country twangy western style that you would almost hear from like Cowboy Bebop in certain scenes, it seems like they're lending more into the electric, energetic, more modern sound, which
It's going harder on the sci-fi than the western.
yes. And I think with the scope of the manga, that does 100% make sense. But that will certainly be where you see many of the detractors for the 98 version being superior. Like they will go for things like the intro soundtrack or like the but overall I think that's a relatively minor preference thing, because I do think the kind of frenetic sound and music that you get in the first series, I think that's excellent. I really do like that they chose to go someplace different instead of just directly emulating the original one, and that's also kind of reflected upon, like the mangaka is not directly involved like he was with the 98 version, but he is reading the shit, giving approval and giving feedback where asked for, but he himself is optimistic because he didn't expect his legacy to continue past the relevance of the 98 show, much less have it be such a loved thing that it can be considered divisive, which is better, the Stampede or the 98. He's just thrilled that there's that much zeitgeist behind it to begin with.
The people are even having the conversation.
Exactly. And when you look at how much, like 75% of his manga was not published or even finished, and wouldn't be finished for years by the time that one finished.
Because that
So
initial
I'm-
run got canceled, and then it like had to be
Yep.
kind of rebooted in a different magazine.
And then got picked up, and after it got picked up, there was even a shift between that and the rest of it. So ultimately, it's interesting to see how the design of the sequences, it seems like there is a lot more focus on some of those higher sci-fi concepts, whereas the original Trigun's iconography is a lot more of that desert western futuristic guns and leftover tech remnants. It feels more, well, post-apocalyptic in a sense. And that's very true. That's very good that it's going at it like that, because Stampede is taking it kind of more back to the manga, at least with that first bit. They seem like they're going to really go and show just how much loss of life can really happen when you get some aliens that possess godlike powers in play. And that is, I think, where they're focusing a lot of that sound design around. Long-winded answer to talk about the sound, but
Yeah. Okay. Very cool there. And let me see when this series is supposed to come out. Do you know?
January 10th.
January 10th. Okay, so it's almost right around the corner there.
We're actually gonna have a lot of stuff like all coming out at once in January too. It's like Hell's Paradise, Jujutsu Kaisen, this. There's like 2 or 3 other shows I think also all airing in January. It's kind of nuts.
Okay. Very cool there. And you're gonna be first right there, Tim, watching Stargaze. Okay. Yeah. And I forgot, what was your rating for the Trigun there, Vash the Stampede there?
I believe it was cinema.
Cinema. Okay. You give it
I thought it's something that definitely warrants watching if you're a fan of any of the genres which overlap within this.
Gotcha. All right. So that was our thoughts. Trigun, Stargaze, trailer 2 there. Very cool. Thank you again, Tim. Thank you for your thoughts, man. Much appreciated. And I'd love to have you on the review for Trigun, Stargaze.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me on, Josh. You have a good one.
Have a good one. Since we're already still talking about trailers there, might as well roll into the next one there. Let's see. You said Romeo Must Die. That had a release date.
I know that one was one of the, I think it was a PlayStation showcase a few months back, but that one really seemed to catch your attention as like the most interesting game at that show.
Yeah, we're not talking about the movie Romeo Must Die. We're not talking about that there. Let's see here. Let me see if I can find this trailer. Let's see. Romeo is a dead man.
Yeah, I must have said the wrong name.
Yeah, that's what it is there. So release date. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna watch this there, and yeah, this was one of the more ones I was interested in during the game show there. This one, Tides of Annihilation, was also a really one I was interested in as well. But let's check this
before
out.
the trailer, even I'll give you just 2 tidbits of information. This comes out February 11th, and it is only going to be priced at $49.99. Published by the studio themselves, which they've never done before.
Okay.
My name is Dead Man.
I think we said it was very Chainsaw Man-ish, very Chainsaw.
There's definitely some of that in there. It's the Suda 51 game, and Suda 51, like the No More Heroes franchise is Suda 51. Killer 7 back on like the GameCube was. You kind of always know when it's Suda 51 when you start seeing it. There's this very, very recognizable stylistic sensibility.
Okay. All right.
What is your name?
Julia.
And if you play No More Heroes, very No More Heroes-ish there.
You and I are the same.
And I truly could not tell you what's happening during any of this.
I think my consciousness is making me do it.
You're still.
Yeah, I know they did like a story trailer. I forgot exactly what the story was.
That one was even more confusing.
Dead man.
The guy was like a medic, and he had an accident or something.
It had an almost Rick and Morty vibe where he like goes. They're having like breakfast, and he goes and answers the doors. Like somebody rips his arm off, and then his grandpa comes out, and he's like, "Don't worry, you're gonna die, but I'm gonna put this thing in your face, and it's gonna make you a robot."
We found you. Yeah.
There's an old school Gundam reference there with that color scheme.
Yeah, Gundam there. And it's only gonna be okay. So Steam, you got Xbox.
No Switch is the only thing. Yeah.
No Switch there. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I love the aesthetic of it. I love the look of it. The action looks really crazy. It looks really fun there. So that's also something I'm really looking forward to there. Let me
And
see.
priced reasonably as well. Like again, just like Expedition 33, some of these other games, $49.99. Like some of these game studios are really pulling back and trying to make things like reasonable budgets that I just really appreciate when these studios do this.
So it says take control of protagonist Romeo Stargazer. We just had something called there Stargazer with Trigun. In this third-person single-player action adventure, split into various chapters, his story is both unpredictable and littered with intense battles, interspersed with side missions to suit the player's pace. Let's see. The game story starts with space-time itself being shattered by a certain incident. Romeo 2, on the brink of life and death, finds himself revived by a new kind of super technology, thus is recruited for the FBI's space-time police. There you go. As a special agent and wanders the cosmos in search of criminals who have taken advantage of the situation at hand and attempt to bring justice back to the universe. At the same time, he looks for clues concerning his missing girlfriend, Juliet, who we just saw. We just saw her in the trailer. And quickly comes to find both her disappearance and the destruction of space may be more linked than he thought. Donning the mask called Dead Gear, what awaits Romeo at the edges of space and time?
About 95% of that I did not get from the trailer.
Well, there you go. Okay, he's part of FBI's space time police. Okay, there you go.
That is the most Japanese anime version of Green Lantern I've ever heard.
Yeah, so the FBI's expanded, man. They go into space now, space and time. They've expanded there. Okay. All right. It looks badass. I love it. February, that's also that's not gonna be too far away there. So
no, it's coming up quick.
That's also coming up very quick there. $50, that's a good price point for this. If it is a good game. Wonder how long it's gonna be though.
I'm guessing 8 to 12, just based on the sort of feel and style of it as an action game. That's my prediction, at least.
Okay, that'd be a good decent for a $50 game. 8 to 12, that'd be pretty decent. So yeah, okay. Thank you for that. February 12th there. Looking forward to something. Then also you mentioned Replaced as well there.
This is a game that I feel like I've been looking forward to for about 5 years now, of them showing trailers and stuff. Just kind of wondering, is this game even real? Is it ever coming out? And finally it is.
Okay, so let's check this out. Got a trailer for Replaced.
And as you start playing it too, this is pixel art. It's very, very advanced. It's certainly I've shown this footage of this game to people and they don't even realize that it is pixel art at first, because it is just so detailed and they're doing so much with the pixel art.
So just do me a favor, send
I like the music. Music's really good. Um, hmm.
The combat, and now the trailer's only just getting to it, but it kind of plays like the Batman Arkham combat style.
Hmm. Oh, he's gonna do something to that arm pretty bad there.
The counters and takedowns and sort of using the environment against the enemy. It's this very kind of rhythm based sort of. I would be shocked if it wasn't directly inspired by the Batman games.
And do you know the story of this game?
So you're playing as a sort of an AI in a kind of shell body. It's very sort of Ghost in the Shell, very sort of Blade Runner. Definitely aesthetically, right, based in those things with the sort of cyberpunk feel the whole thing's going on. And I know you are, you're on the run. You're definitely not supposed to be your property. You're not supposed to be out and about in the world. It's too much more than that. They've kept it kind of tight-lipped, and they haven't gotten too into the details on like where that plot goes. But that premise, at least, I think is, it's a classic cyberpunk premise. But these sort of 2D action adventure, again, just some of the most impressive pixel art I've ever seen anyone do. It's come a long way from the original Nintendo. The presentation of that style is just so something fresh, I feel.
Okay, so it says here, this is from Steam. It says, uncover the sinister secrets of the Phoenix Corporation through the eyes of its own creation, Reach. And Reach is an acronym, an AI trapped in a human body against its will in an alternate 1980s America reshaped by nuclear catastrophe there. Phoenix City has become one of the corporation's one of the corporation's strongholds there, a haven for corruption where outlaws thrive and human life is traded like currency. Step in the role of Reach there, expose the corporation's hidden agenda and uncover the purpose behind your creation. Um, it's a 2.5D cinematic action platformer wrapped in an intense cyberpunk thriller narrative. Run, climb, and fight through crumbling districts, industrial wastelands, and neon lit alleys with a fluid movement and fast responsive combat. Chain precise melee strikes with satisfying ranged attacks to take down enemies in high intensity encounters while keeping the flow of exploration. Okay, very nice there. Any rumors about the price of it?
Nothing I've seen yet, but I would be willing to put money on somewhere between 20 and 30.
20 and 30. Okay. Yeah. Looks like that type of game there. And it let me see. So it's available there. You can get it on Steam, but again, no Switch, huh?
No Switch. A lot of games just seem to be passing up the Switch.
And looks like this game is not going to be available on PlayStation either, just Xbox and Steam.
Yeah. Actually, this was kind of marketed before Xbox started kind of doing their whole multi-platform thing. This was marketed as a big Xbox exclusive indie game. I think it'll make its way to PlayStation now, though, with kind of the way the landscape has changed. Keeping in mind this game was announced 5 years ago, way before any of us really ever had even a thought of Xbox going multi-platform. I think it'll make its way over to other systems. Maybe not day one, but I'm willing to bet 6 months to a year out.
Gotcha. Okay. Very cool there. So that was all the trailers there that we were talking about.
I figure get those couple game trailers out of the way now, because next week there's gonna be so many from the Game Awards.
Yeah, a lot of big stuff there. All right. So you got one last review, and that's it. There's some who's on right now. Carefly is on right now. Lucky Dog is still on. The guy playing Ghost of Yote, the capital G, he's not on anymore, but Geek Dom is still on. He's playing Where Winds Meet.
I see somebody called the Afternoon Tune here streaming right now.
Oh yeah, those assholes. Yeah, those people are there. Yeah, very cool there. So yeah, so good people to rate after this. Josh Yuan, she's playing Star Citizen. He's playing that. So good people to rate after this. Let me get the trailer here for Indiana Jones and the Order of Giants. There, let me get that and go ahead and get started on that. I still have to play Indiana Jones. There, I was the first to get it, and I haven't played it yet. I got it on
It's
PC.
good stuff, man. And honestly, it's not like a super long game either. I mean, I'd say maybe 20 hours if you're really exploring and doing a lot. You could probably beat it faster if you're really just kind of going through the main story beats.
Awesome. All right. So, Sage, let's know about Indiana Jones and the Order of Giants.
Well, if you already were a fan of this game, this is a great additional 4 to 6 hours of this game. It's a pretty lengthy sort of side mission set in the sort of fascist Italy map of the game. That is kind of the first level of the regular story. But this sets up for you to go further down over to Rome. And under some catacombs in actual Rome, you're exploring some of the sewers that connect into the aqueduct system. And there is sort of and I don't want to spoil the whole thing, but I will say there is sort of a Roman cult operating here that is separate from the Italian fascist military and in the Nazi military and stuff. So there's like kind of a whole other sort of group that you're dealing with in part here. This really does nail just kind of what the base game nails. Good puzzles that take just even a second to have to kind of really think about at times. Really great environments here. Lots of great traversal. I mean, it's honestly better tomb sequences than I think we've gotten from like the Tomb Raider franchise in a very long time. Troy Baker is as great as he was in the main game. Now, I won't say there is not as much of like a fleshed out like character arc here in terms of the story. Like, I think this very much is meant to feel like a side mission within the story. But there's a lot of really great set pieces here, a lot of really great encounters, a lot of very cool environments and stuff. And even amongst this, there's lots of little side stuff to find as you explore this area. And they show it in the trailer there, but kind of the sort of the big climax is also really kind of exploring the Colosseum and what's underneath that, and getting into some more of the Indiana Jones's very particular supernatural mythology that it underlies all of its history with. I won't say it does anything wholly super different from the main game, but I would give such high praise to the base game as it is already, that to say that this is just more of that is in no way a negative.
Okay. And how long is this DLC?
I'd say it's about 46 hours, depending on how much time you're taking. I got about 6.5 hours out of it because I was really just trying to explore every little nook and cranny as I was going. And you've got, you can kind of treat it like another new area amongst the areas that the game already has. And there's like a decent amount to it. That's as long as you'd spend in the Egypt level or the Italy level or the Sancret level that's in the base game already. So it's a solid sized area. And I think the sort of mythology and kind of how it adds, and it does relate to and play into some of the stuff that's going on in the core game quite a bit, like especially things kind of pertaining to the Tony Todd character that's in the base game, exploring a little bit of what's going on with that more in a way that I thought was really cool. But yeah, it really is. It's more of this game. It's not doing anything super different, but it is more of something that is like nearly perfect already.
Okay. Interesting. And then with this, how much is the DLC?
I believe there's a $20 season pass that gets you this DLC, but there's also other stuff that comes in that gets added to the base game. I don't know if you could buy just this expansion completely on its own, but I feel I'd imagine between the this and then like the sort of the extra kind of bonus stuff that the deluxe edition gets you, like the digital art book and the soundtrack and stuff. $20 I think is more than worth it for this whole sort of set of game, and then also the other additional things it comes with.
Okay. And are they're probably doing like a bundle right now, right? Probably with the base
Oh, I
game.
guarantee. Well,
Okay.
so I'll say the version of this that I own was a gift from someone, too, and that was like you know, upon its like release on PlayStation, there was like a version that had this bundled in. So I already had it. I was just waiting for it to unlock when it came out.
Mm, okay. And with this kind of DLC, so how many DLCs have the game had already?
This is the only like big expansion that the game's had. Like the other DLC that this has had is costumes, update that added new game plus that was free. This is like the first and possibly only like true like DLC expansion for the game.
Okay, good there. Um, Very cool there. So it's pretty much all the same stuff. If you've played the base game already, pretty much just more of that with a good experience at 4 hours, 20 price at $20 there. Do you think so? That's probably right around pretty good price there.
I think
Or
for 4 to 6, I'd say so. I would think of it like it costing more like $15 because I'd say that other five, that's the art book, that's the soundtrack stuff because it's all bundled together. So I'd say like $15 is maybe realistically like what you're actually paying for just this on its own. And yeah, I mean between 4 and 6 hours, depending on how much you take your time to explore, I think that's pretty solid, honestly.
okay, very nice. Any problems with the DLC at all? Any issues there?
I didn't really run into any real problems, any no glitches or anything like that. The only thing that I did have was there was one particular sequence that was like a combat thing. There's a bit of a boss fight near the end, and I did wonder at times if I was like triggering certain like aspects of the combat correctly because it took me a minute to get my bearings. That might have just been me just being bad at it though. Like I don't know that that's the game's fault, but there was a little bit of a trick to how it worked that did take me a second to figure out.
Okay. Are the puzzles, are they any
I think it's
really
actually some of the best puzzles in the whole game. There was one in particular where it's like this giant like tomb area, and you have this huge series of maps on the floor, and they've all got these pins in different locations, and there's like 4 or 5 staffs that all relate to different symbols on the map, and you've got to get all of them and then turn these sort of things to kind of mimic a travel route across the map by like spinning all these different. And that one I was like, I'm actually really having to think about how this works and like look and reread the certain like the things on the wall that are telling me where I'm meant to be sending everything. Like that I thought was like, wow, I thought that was a great puzzle. That really particularly stood out as something like I had to stop and really actually think about what I was doing.
nice? Okay. What will be your rating for the Order of Giants?
As a DLC, I'm gonna give it a peek, which is just one step below what I gave the base game as a This Is Cinema. And the only reason I'd go lower is just because I think the base game had like a real character arc for Indiana Jones in a way that I thought was very thoughtful. Here, it's great side content. The environment's great, the mystery, the mythology, the world building is all great. But I also don't think that it has as much of a sort of personal story in it for the character. So that's the one thing that maybe makes it a slight bit lesser than kind of the base game story, but not by a whole significant amount either.
Okay. Nice there. So a peek from you for the Order of Giants there. Any rumors, any plans you've heard of more DLC?
I haven't heard anything yet. I would certainly be happy if they wanted to do some more. I think Machine Games is a great studio. They did such an amazing job with this. But I have a feeling they're probably moving their kind of core development onto Wolfenstein 3 now. I think they're probably getting into that refocusing period.
Okay. Very nice there. So that was Sage's review of Indiana Jones DLC, The Order of Giants there. Thank you. All right, we'll be heading out of here. Lucky Dog. Lucky Dog is on. I'll go ahead and give him a rate. He's watching Pluribus right now.
Oh,
Uh,
nice. And I was in his chat before we started, and he told me to say hi. So there you go.
all right. Very cool. So I'll go ahead and give him a raid there. Thank you, Sage. Thank you, Tim, so much. One more time, Sage, where can people find you? What you got going on? What you got coming up next? All that good stuff.
Now you can find me over at Rated M for Immaturity on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, all under that exact same name. We're on Twitch live every Tuesday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. 2:30. We've been on a Metal Gear Solid kick lately. The Snake Eater remake, we just played 1. We're going to be starting 2 tomorrow, which is going to be a lot of fun because it's easily the weirdest one. So that'll be really cool. And then Tim's got some of his stuff set back up as well. So we've started to do some more Saturday streams. We should be, me and Ulysses are going to be getting into some Warhammer Space Marine stuff. There's a whole bunch of new free updates to that game that's been coming out. So we're going to be playing a bunch of that. Get that second show back up here. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then, yeah, that was a recent one we did as well. Super cool. Looking forward to the full release there. You can find all of the backlog of all of our streams on YouTube if you don't catch us live. We've done so many games at this point. I don't even know how many there are on there. At least 130 or 40 completely different games. And then if that's not enough content for you, I've got a book that you can buy. It's about kind of Roman Legion-esque munition, dinosaur sci-fi, paleo satire, violent war stories, a little bit of that South Park inspired satire. Definitely some Metal Gear inspiration in there as well.
Yeah.
And that's available
Why don't
right
you talk
now
about this great deal?
oh man. That right there has earned Ubisoft the name Ubislop from now on. Like, I don't get they've proudly announced that they've got AI in like every one of their studios across the whole company. This is just a free update, but it lowers the whole score I would give this game by like at least 2 points. Yeah, because this just feels like pure AI slop that they have injected into the game, and it is I think, sobering look at what Ubisoft is going to feel like going forward.
So do you actually get to kill a Titan, or
no? You just run away from it for 5 minutes and then it's over.
Oh, that's lame. You don't actually get
it's
to kill
extremely lame.
Wow. Okay. So you just like save the person from being eaten by the Titan, and then you run away.
The person who is tied up with cuts on them, which would trigger them to transform, so they would be able to defend themselves. There's so many issues with it. In the dialogue, these characters are using like fan-made terms for like world building aspects of the series that are only referred to that by fans and are never said within the actual series because they asked ChatGPT what Attack on Titan was. I'm convinced that that's what happened. The writers over at Ubisoft, they asked ChatGPT what this was and to write this for them, and then they just modeled some stuff quick and put that in the game. It is a negative amount of effort that went into this, and it has riled me up and pissed me off more than like anything else in the games industry in a while.
So this is the Titan chasing after you? Okay. Oh, well, they got you there. You didn't run too
I wanted
fast.
to see what the death animation looks like, and it's just like a little lame, like smack. Just a little smack. Doesn't even eat you. They couldn't even animate that. I wonder what's that thing that people know Attack on Titan for? Is it giants that eat people? Is it people getting eaten? Is that the thing that happens in that show? Must not be, I guess.
Well, maybe he didn't like dark meat. Maybe he's a fan of something. Maybe if
it was the racist Titan.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. Maybe next Monday. If you can give a review of it, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
Oh God, I can. It'll be a lot of what I just said over again, but I can go into it.
Yeah. Upcoming streams. Wednesday, I'm gonna be with Neil. Neil's gonna be here. I'm gonna be discussing some news going on. Sydney Sweeney, films bomb in there. So do that. Also, Netflix possibly buying Warner Brothers. They apparently now Paramount may come in last minute. They may buy Warner Brothers. They're fighting over to see if they can do it. Then you got the WGA. They're trying to block the sale of Netflix.
I hope they do.
They're buying it, so they're trying to do it. So still hope, and maybe in the 12th hour there's something good that can happen. Maybe they can block it. Maybe. So discuss that. All the things going on there.
As a big DC fan, for having like a Dark Ages for the last decade, and we're finally getting out of that. If this comes along and like ruins the James Gunn's rebooted universe, I will burn Netflix headquarters down.
They decided to get some Netflix stars in there. It's like, hey, Millie Bobby Brown's gonna be Catwoman. And they're gonna get her.
I'm more than anything, I'm like worried that Netflix is going to be like, hey, Zack Snyder's hanging around at the office. Like, why don't we let him come in and make more things? So I'm like, no, don't let him get his hands on this shit again.
Maybe that was Zack Snyder. Maybe he was playing 4D chess. Maybe he knew it was going. He was like, "Hey, I leave DC, I go to Netflix, and then they're gonna end up buying Warner Brothers, and I can do my own thing again with DC." Maybe he was playing 4D chess, man. We weren't smart enough to see it at the time.
I'll never be excited for another comic book movie again if that happens.
So discuss that. Also, Quentin Tarantino. Everybody's hating Quentin Tarantino. Discuss all that. Get into that.
People hate him as much as he loves feet.
Yeah, I mean, hey, and that's hard to do, man. It's hard to do. He loves them feet. So him hating on Paul Dano, him hating on Owen Wilson. Matthew Lillard came out and said he hated on me. I don't know.
Did you see Quentin Tarantino also made a statement? He said, "I don't have a foot fetish, but if you look, a lot of great directors put a lot of feet in their films."
I can't think of a director who puts a lot of feet in their films
other than him.
I don't know.
That's a singularly known thing about him. There's no other director that I'm like, oh yeah, that's a foot guy. He's the only one.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Did I see feet in Woody Allen movies? Have I seen that in his? I can't remember if I've seen it in his movies or not.
Not that I could remember off the top of my head, at least. But
yeah. So, but no, there's always like a foot shot. That's always a big thing. Kill Bill, Death Proof.
From Dusk Till Dawn, he wrote and then cast himself as a character that sucks on Salma Hayek's toes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think any guy would do that. I don't think that you gotta be a foot guy to do that.
I mean, that's fair because it's Salma Hayek, but come on. We know why he was there.
Yeah, and then also he said he looked like George Clooney or something, yeah. And they play brothers in it, so
they also don't look alike.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I think any guy would do this, I think, yeah.
I mean, it's Salma Hayek, so
I forgot he was in this movie. I know that actor. Is that Richard Roundtree?
Name, I'm blanking on the name, but I recognize him.
I think that's Richard Roundtree, I think. But yeah. I think is there any movie he doesn't do feet? I'm trying to think. In Reservoir Dogs, does he do feet in that? I can't remember.
I haven't seen it in so long, but I would not be shocked if there's at least one shot in there somewhere.
I think maybe that's the only movie. Maybe I don't remember anything feet wise with that. Because
there's a post-credit scene you've never seen. That's just
yeah. I mean, that movie is mostly men in it, so maybe that's
true.
That's mostly
that's the only reason there's not more feet.
Yeah.
Now, did you see the old clip that's being passed around of Norm Macdonald doing an impression of Quentin Tarantino? Because I love how mean it is.
Oh, you never seen that before? Oh yeah, it's
old. I hadn't thought about it in a long time, and that just is so yeah, fuck that guy. That's exactly how I feel right now.
Yeah, he's pretty good at doing it, Norm Macdonald. I remember this clip,
and he's he means it to be insulting.
From Hollywood directors, okay, is that I have a huge head, all right? Okay, now I don't mean I have a big ego, okay, because I don't, all right. I mean my actual head is huge, all right. I mean I have to sleep sitting up, okay, like the Elephant Man, or I'll die, all right. This, okay, it was my huge head, okay, that thought up who was perfect to play Marcellus's wife, all right? Okay, Walter, your character, okay, is the gimp, okay? Now, what you have to remember about your character is that he's kept in a trunk, all right?
That's how I see the real Tarantino right now.
I forgot what show he did this on, because this is Comedy Central, so it couldn't have been SNL he did this on.
No, I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure, but it was. I mean, it's definitely a great skit.
Oh, he did it on Howard Stern's show too.
Okay, he was making the rounds, just going everywhere doing that impression.
Yeah, this is pretty recent because this is
Anyways, Howard, the thing is, okay, about Pulp Fiction, okay, is he was the best guy for it, okay? So, I had to look into my big misshapen head, all right? To finally figure it out, okay? Larry King used to
yeah. You know who would make a good play him in a movie? Quentin Tarantino, that guy, what's his name? He was in Planet of the Apes. He was in the sequel.
Was he one of the humans or one of the actors that mocap one of the apes?
No, he was the human actor.
Jason something? Jason something?
Yeah, it was like God, what's his name?
I think I know who you're talking about. But yeah, I think I can see it. He's got the chin. He's definitely got the chin.
Let's see, Planet of the Apes. Yeah, this is gonna drive me crazy here.
I think it was Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and he was like the main kind of human guy in that movie.
Yeah, it was the Dawn movie.
Yeah, Jason something.
Jason Clark. Okay,
Jason Clark. Okay.
Yeah, either he could be Piers Morgan or he could be Quentin Tarantino. There,
I could see it.
Yeah, he's kind of got that look. Yeah, a little bit. Kind of got the Easter Island head and everything like that. Yeah, I can kind of see it. But yeah, so talk about Quentin Tarantino there and all that going on. And then Friday, hopefully hopefully Dusk will join me. Sorry, Dusk will join me there doing reviews for catch up a little bit because you got Five Nights at Freddy's there. There's a sequel to that. I hear that's just as
My
terrible.
condolences.
Yeah, I hear that's just as terrible. I got to see a movie tonight. There's the movie, the Hamlet movie coming out. Then also there's that movie Ella McKay that's coming out this week. Then also I'll see if I can do a review for Sorry Baby. I've heard a lot about that movie. It's on HBO Max right now. Better just enjoy HBO Max now before it becomes HBO Max Flix, I guess. So do that.
And we just had the name changed back.
Yeah, so better enjoy it there. So do that Friday. No stream plan for Saturday. No stream plan for Sunday. Monday, hopefully, like I said, Sage can join me again Monday. There, he'll do his review of the Assassin's Creed Shadows DLC.
It'll be a rant at least for sure.
Rant review there of that movie wise there. Also, I think the trailer for Supergirl that's coming out this week, so we'll do
that's Thursday,
yeah, so we'll do a reaction to that. We could do that. The teaser trailer for it is coming out. That's the only thing scheduled on the docket for Monday so far. So
well, there will be so many trailers from the Game Awards that I could see that basically taking up an entire stream.
And reacting to the Game Awards, winners, losers, reacting to that. So we could do that and trailers. All right, I'm gonna send you all over to Lucky Dog Podcast, watching that Pluribus there. All right, everybody, stay tuned out of here. See ya.